I've added an inch or so of water. And where is it here? Here's the steamer. So I remember having this when I was growing up, and my mom would steam vegetables in it. So the 1 inch of water just barely comes to the bottom of that. When I start the stove on, I'm going to bring that to a boil and then put the eggs in and then start the timer for 14 minutes and with the lid on. Then when it's done, I take it, put it in the sink, let the cold water go on it for probably 2 or 3 minutes. Let it sit in cold water for about 10 or 15 minutes. And then I put the lid on. So it's just egg. I pour the water out. It's just the cooked eggs. They're fairly cool. And I shake it and it just totally separates out the eggshell. It's pretty amazing. So this is going to be for the bacon. These pans I'm probably not going to use. I just brought them out. Sometimes I'll scramble eggs when I'm doing my 1 ingredient cooking. So in my other video, I talked about how I use cast iron. In order to get iron, I don't usually take supplements, vitamin supplements. I don't necessarily trust them. I'd rather get it from food if we can. And so I wash my pans, I scrape them out. I wash them with a regular scraper. I want to have some of that iron come in my body. It always will rust. Before I just start cooking again, I will wash it one more time to get rid of that top layer of rust. But I'm not one of these people that and this goes back to my cooking school days where it's like you never would not clean that's a double negative. You always cleaned your pans. Whereas some people, they will only just lightly wash their pan, and I don't trust that there's residual food left over. So that's just the way I'd rather clean everything really well with soap and water, which is what I do. So I'm going to wash this out. I'm going to turn the oven on, and it's going to get a little louder because I want the fan to be working, and I have to open a window too so that I have ventilation. So that's what I'm going to do next. So this is a cabbage stir fry that I'm making. I find the cabbage stir fry sort of is, to me, I'm treating it like as if I had noodles or rice. It's fairly neutral flavored, I find, and it's mixed with other stuff. So I'm just going to fry it a little bit longer. If it's too fried, it doesn't taste actually as good when it's fried too long. This is the eggs. The water has boiled. And so I'm going to be adding these eggs at the top, and then I'll set the timer for 14 minutes. So that's half a dozen eggs. I put the lid on. I set my timer for 14 minutes. And that's the only thing I actually set timer for. Otherwise, I'm just conscious of what's going in. And because I'm not leaving the room, because it's a gas stove, I am going to be here all the time pretty much. Before I turn the video back on, I had put the carrots and the vegetable medley in there already. I'm preheating the oven, so I've actually jump started and put them in there before the oven is completely hot, which I've discovered I can do, and those ones don't go too brown. Like if you put stuff into the oven while it's preheating, especially with that electric oven I used to have, it would just get too hot. Whereas I'm finding with the gas oven, it's not getting it too hot too fast. The preheat takes a while. So this is the, it's okay to use the metal scraper because I'm not minding that some of the iron is coming off into the food. I had added that little tiny bit of bone broth that you saw me add to that. So that's adding a little bit of moisture. I might actually add a little bit of butter. So I have about a cup of butter here that I'm going to be using. I'm going to add a little bit of butter to that. It'll make it taste a little better. Butter makes things taste better. I think I would classify butter as a processed food because I bet that there's more than just butter in it. So I will count butter in with the category of the bacon and the sausage because it's been made in a factory. So we've got that cooking. When that's done, I have all of these things ready to replace it. So like I say, I'm trying to be efficient with the gas, with the heat of the oven, and with the least amount of time cooking. So I know I could have all the burners on. In this particular house, when I use the front burners, any smoke seems to set the fire alarms off. So I'm just using the back two burners. But yeah, if you had a stove that you can have all the burners on, as long as you can keep up with it all, because I got lots of things going on, lots of things cooking at the same time. As long as you can keep up with them and nothing's really burning. If you have two things you're frying, sometimes it can get a little bit overwhelming. So this seems to work well, that I can keep up with things. I've got a pan ready. That's going to go in. When that's done, I'm going to fry the cauliflower, or wash it out and fry the garlic. I like garlic cooked in a clean pan so that it doesn't stick as much. This is almost ready. That is one nice thing about the gas stove, is it cooks super hot. You can see this is starting to cook. Might need to cook it another minute or two. I don't know if it was completely boiling. So I still have to add the potatoes in the oven. It's at 349. I want to get it up to 390 this time. I'm wiping off the bottom of the glass because water and glass and heat, I have broken dishes in the past. Well, that's not true. I've never broken a glass dish in the oven. I broke one trying to make a double boiler. Okay, so I'm putting it on the bottom shelf along with this because I want these to get really, really, really hot and brown. So I'm putting them on the bottom shelf. I'm wiping the bottom of the pan before I put it in. So that's on the bottom shelf. So there's 4 things in there right now. So that's efficient. Okay, so this is almost done. Smells good. I don't think I put any seasoning other than the parsley. I'm going to add a little bit more parsley. There's a lot of flavors in there, so. And with the bone broth isn't usually too strong, but it will add a little bit of flavor. So I'm going to take this off now, and I'm going to replace it with the bacon. Because I'm cooking the cauliflower in next, it's okay that it's not totally clean. But I don't want this to catch on fire, the stuff that came off the edge. It's such a big pan. So I'm going to cook the cauliflower in mostly butter, because that makes it taste good. Because cauliflower doesn't have a lot of flavor. I'm going to add a bit of the garlic to the Brussels sprouts. Those are also going to be pan fried. So I have 2 things ready to pan fry, plus the sausage. So I'm going to do this next. There wasn't any seasoning in that. It was just the cauliflower and the butter. And so I'm just going to cook them until they are finished cooking, which they change color when they're done. I am also going to make a cheese sauce, I think, later, because the cheese sauce will taste good with the Brussels sprouts, or you can use mayonnaise or garlic sauce. Add garlic to mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is also not a true clean food, 1 ingredient food, because there's chemicals in it, but I'm not too picky about that because I have so much other food that's very healthy. The broccoli always tastes good with cheese sauce too. I did buy some steak spice at the bulk food store. I'm going to add a tiny bit of flavoring to this. I know it's supposed to be for steak. Oh, that just says that the oven's heated up to 390. Just a little bit of spices, because cauliflower is pretty bland. So you can see it starting to change color. Getting a little bit almost green, yellowy green. So I finished the cauliflower, put it in the pan, and now I have the Brussels sprouts cooking a little low because the garlic was starting to brown too much. And so I'm just frying those in a little bit of oil and a tiny bit of water, so it's partially steaming. Stuff in the oven is doing great. You can, hopefully you can hear the sizzle. You can see the carrots are almost done. They're starting to curl. So the carrots are definitely done. They're curling up and some of them have got a little brown. I took the eggs off the stove and I have them in cold water with some ice. And I will show you what they do when I put the lid on. I drain the water out, put the lid on, and then I'll shake them. I've got the lid on and I've just started to shake them, and you can start to see what they look like. It's going to be a little noisy. Do you see? Isn't this amazing? So I have to take them out to make sure that the peels aren't getting embedded. But I don't know what it is. It's like magic, and it's the steaming, and they just peel off. So handy. And then I rinse them off to get the rest of the peels off. Doesn't work perfectly every time. This one's sort of come apart a bit more. It's roughly 14 minutes that I cooked these, but you got to make sure it's really boiling at the beginning, and then it helps to have the ice. I don't always have ice, I just have cold water. But yeah, it goes pretty fast, and then I just rinse those off. Pretty cool. I've done the Brussels sprouts. They're finished. The bacon I keep putting back and forth and to keep using up the burner. Sweet potatoes are almost done. Carrots are done. So the potatoes are cooking very nicely, and they're like browning on the bottom very nicely. So the next thing I do for the potatoes is I grate cheese on top, and then I put it back in the oven just to melt the cheese. You can already have it pre-grated. I forgot to have it already grated ahead of time. So this makes the potatoes cool down a tiny bit because they're out of the oven. But it'll probably be fine. These taste best when they're eaten right away, but they also are okay for another day heating them up. Now I had switched the vegetable medley around. I'm putting it in the middle. The beans are still in there. Putting this on the bottom for about maybe a minute or two. I've already turned the oven off, so it's still hot in there. So this is another way to not use up any more maximum amount of energy that we can. The sweet potatoes are coming along, and I can put my fork in them. That's how I know they're done. Now I don't have the potatoes ready. I need another pan, put the potatoes in for them to boil, so I'm just going to turn that off for now. Now I'm going to keep that, I'm going to strain out the liquid and keep that liquid for soup. So the broccoli's done. I ended up just cooking it in the leftover water from the sweet potatoes. The beans are done. They're roasted. I'm in the middle of cooking the bacon. As you can see, it's almost done. I like crispy bacon. So it's just frying up in here. I find this super easy because I don't have to be flipping it, and it cooks fairly quickly this way. Don't want to cook it too much. Put the lid back on at an angle, turning it down a bit. The potatoes turned out amazing. Cheese melted on top. And so those are done. The Brussels sprouts were all done. I'm just about ready to start cooking the garlic after the bacon is done. The potatoes, I added a few, I used fresh water and hot water and added a bit of the bone broth cubes from the freezer. So that will give them a bit more flavor and nutrients. So the bacon is done and crispy, and I've just poured it out here onto a paper towel, and there's actually quite a lot of bacon fat. Sometimes I save it and then use it in future baking, but not always. So that one's done. The garlic, I use about, I'm guessing, a tablespoon of olive oil, and I cook it not too hot because it can burn, and I want it to be evenly cooked. So I had scraped out the pan after the Brussels sprouts. Still have the mixed medley in the oven. It's not cooking super fast because there's a lot of moisture in all of those vegetables, and I want them to brown a bit. I've also turned it down to 350. After the garlic is cooked, then I'm going to do the onions. After the onions are cooked, then I'm going to do the spinach and then the sausage. So it's one after another in this great big pan. So I just keep cooking this until it's medium brown. So the vegetable medley is almost done. They're starting to shrivel a little bit. I finished the garlic, so that's what it looks like. And then I've got the onions now that I'm frying. I just wiped out the pan after the garlic. Put the onions in, I didn't wash it. So the vegetable medley turned out great. The potatoes are still boiling. The onions are almost done cooking. The onions are done. I just scraped them out. I didn't make the pan too perfect. And then I threw all the rest of the spinach in there. Now we'll cook for about 2 minutes.